Right, so for this one, we're going a bit tippy, bit instructional, and focusing on one of my favouriteest ever baits that have come from Sonubaits, and that is the Pro Expanders. I mean, I'm a big fan, mate, of the 8mm. I've spoken about it lots and lots and lots, that I'm a big fan of using them double, single, as me blown pellet sort of when I'm bomb fishing, or also as a great big hook bait for down the edge. And that's what I want to focus on now. I mean, is preparing the 8mm, just showing how versatile they are and doing them in the right way for what I want to fish them for. Do you know what I mean? They're a great expander that, so that the key benefit is that they sink straight away. You know what I mean? No need for pumping, just soak them. They will sink like house bricks all the time. But what I want them for durability on occasions when I want to cast them and things like that, they need to be prepared in a slightly different way for the norm. So the norm would be simply put them in water, let them soak, and within whatever size you're using, whether they're small all the way up to the great big lads, that a pellet that if you want to fish them on a pole, you can put them in water, leave them. Even while you're fishing, you can leave them. They're not going to carry on going to a mush, really soft. They're always going to be usable if you leave them in water, which is the standard, easy way if you're going to fish a pole, as I said. However, if I want to fish them on a rod, then I want to play them in a slightly different way, just so they get that bit more, they're just a bit tighter. You know what I mean? They're not as soft, they're a bit more resilient, if you like, for when I'm casting them a long way, just so I know I've got one on the hook. I mean, the last thing I want to do is chuck it all the way out there and wonder whether my expander made it to the bottom or not. So if we're preparing in that way, I want to do them a little bit different. And that is where the sort of the standard way of preparing expanders comes in. To say, normal for on the pole, put them in the tub, leave them, they're good to go. For on the rod, however, what I like to do is to put them in the little corner of my bag, and I'll often have 2 or 3 batches, and I'll give them different amounts of water. And what I do, I turn that bag really, really tight, you can see in that case, which prevents them from expanding. So what you end up with is a nice soft, relatively soft expander, but it's not been allowed to expand, so it stays nice and dense and nice and tight. And in turn, that makes it nice and resilient, and I can cast it. And what I'll actually do is have, as I say, 2 or 3 bags of this, that with each one, I'll give it different amounts of water to create different softnesses of pellet. Just because I do want the softest pellet as possible. I mean, the softer I can get it, the better it looks on the bottom. I feel that them fish think it's been there for a long time. It's just a bit safer maybe. So the softer I can get it, the better, but it is tricky, and it depends how big your lead is, how far you're casting, all those sorts of things that dictate how soft my pellet can be. So by having just a small batch, there's not many, there's probably 30 pellets in there. Plenty for a session when I'm only using, I mean, 1 or 2 pellets per cast, and I'm looking at catching 10 or 15 fish. But I can add different amounts of water, potential different amounts of flavour, potential different amounts of colour as well. I mean, a little batch of them will often be made red in my case, just for something different. But by dicking about with the amount of water that you add to it, you can really, really control how them pellets are going to be. And you can see with these, I did these this morning, probably 4 hours ago. So ideally you want to do them the night before, but probably I did them 4 hours ago. You see there's no water left in the bag whatsoever. And I end up with lovely, fairly dense pellets. You can see they've not gone all soft and really fully blown. They're nice and tight, which allows me to stick them on a hair rig and I can cast that a long, long way with a big heavy lead on, knowing that it's still going to be on the bottom when I chuck it out there. So very, very little, tiny tip, but well worth thinking about when you're using these expanders, specifically in a running line. Just make sure your bait stays on.